You are now listening to It's the Social Media by the Plus Money.
Hello.
How are you all? How's everyone?
Drunk.
Good, how are you?
Already drunk. That's beautiful.
Recovering.
I'm here for
Okay, Red Cup.
the red cup. Okay, so before we get started, I want to see who is here with me. Let's start with that. Who do we have here with me?
A real bitch.
First and foremost.
It's
You
me, Queen T.
I am Queen T from the Adulting I Hate It Here podcast.
Excellent. Marla, can you go next?
He's a real bitch.
Real bitch.
Lady, like dog. Lady Marla, formerly from UrbanSuiteTalk podcast, but now I'm just hopping from podcast to podcast.
Gang, gang.
How's retirement treating you, huh?
Yeah, that's all it is.
Hey, what the fuck you just said? How's retirement treating?
How's retirement treating you? All right. Plus, since you wanted to chime in, go ahead and introduce yourself, sir.
Good afternoon, evening, whatever the fuck you're listening to this at. My name is Plus of the Niggas with Opinions podcast, the most illustrious and handsome member. Good evening, everyone.
Little Dirt.
Okay.
Yes, Lil Dirt, 88, one half of the Ignant Agenda podcast.
Nick.
I'm in Pittsburgh with a lot of hoes.
Mm-hmm.
Nigga with a bankroll.
Mm-hmm.
I am one half of the Ignant Agenda podcast. Way more fly than you. One you on Instagram. Way more fly than you. Two yous on Twitter.
Okay, cool. Abdonell.
Really? The whole government? I am your boy, AG.
Mm-hmm.
Host of the Abnormal Minds podcast, your baby mama's favorite podcast. Not my baby mama. Watch your mouth.
Chill out.
I'm not sure if I did this right. Can y'all hear me?
We can hear you.
He can't see you. Hit the camera button, brother.
Why can't I see myself? What's
There's a camera button.
Because you're not on camera.
Welcome back to It's Just Social Media, your podcast for those of you who don't know how to work Zoom and are trying to stream live, but don't know where the camera button is.
No shade.
I am talking to you, Ben. Yeah, when you get back, you'll be able to introduce yourself. For those of you who are new to my podcast, thank you guys so much for joining me. I'm very excited to have very special, awesome guests with me. These are literally my favorite podcasters to listen to, and also good friends of mine, I like to think. Maybe, I hope. And I hope, pretty sad. I've been able to be on a couple of their podcasts, and it's been really exciting times. And if you want to go and listen to me on their podcast, that's up to you. But either way, today's episode, we're going to talk about podcasting, and we're going to ask the experts about podcasting. And I wanted to ask these wonderful, wonderful podcasters, past and present, to discuss with us the double standards of podcasting. And also, the podcasting while black. So, who would like to begin? First of all, what is it like to be podcasting in this day and age, in this time frame, and how long have you guys been doing it, each of you?
I started in May 2015. Trials and tribulations, of course. Niggas that ain't dedicated, niggas that think that this shit is sweet, niggas that think that, they ain't got to put no work in. I've had numerous co-hosts, but now, I'm rocking with my brother, my cousin, and we own it till the wheels fall off, you know what I'm saying? So I think a large portion of what people don't really understand is the amount of work that goes in, the amount of consistency that you have to have day in and day out, not making no money, you know what I'm saying? Not being able to come up with topics, not being able to, you gotta podcast through having your kids, like shit like that, you know what I'm saying? Like, so it's just, if you want it, you gotta go after it, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. To piggyback off of Nick,
Abnormal Minds podcast. I started off in 2003. It was really an internet radio show at first. It just had a segment called the Abnormal Minds, or the Random Thoughts of Abnormal Minds, and that kind of popped off. And the viewers and the listeners told me they were really feeling that, so I just took that and started a whole new creation with it about 2016, and we've been running it ever since. Like y'all, I've been through multiple co-hosts, people who think it's just show up and record and go home, but they don't know everything else that goes behind it, about the content creation, about editing, about, y'all know, I don't have to go through the whole list, but y'all know what we go through to get quality or the consistency. Like some people think they can show up every 2 weeks or every month, and like you, I have kids too. Like I have my kids on my podcast before, so you. So yeah, in a sense, we kind of in the same boat.
Plus you were pacing, so.
I'm sorry, no. I want to pay. That nigga put me on lotion. I don't know what the fuck.
I was like, what is he doing?
He can't sit still.
What? I was like, plus, did you want to say something? I don't know. You felt. All right, before we keep going, Ben is finally here. Let's all give Ben a round of applause for figuring out his phone. All right. So proud of you, Ben. Oh, and Chris just showed up. So Ben is frozen. All right. Well, you know, hey.
You can trap, Lord.
Gang shit.
There goes the show.
Niggas to ride.
You came to the park.
Is everybody in this bitch?
Oh my God.
Chris, can you please introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, man. It's your boy Chris, Vegan Trapper. 1/4 of NWO Podcast.
Excellent. All right, so Chris, as you already know, the topic is podcasting while black, and also double standards of podcasting. How long have you been podcasting, and what do you, I guess, want to talk about in terms of like what people don't know about podcasting before we go into the, the heavy shit of podcasting while black?
I'd say probably like a year and a half, maybe, as far as how long I've been podcasting. I've been around podcasting for a while because like I had early experience with like the Drink Champs and stuff like that when they first started. But outside of that, I would say as far as being a part of the podcast, probably like a year and a half.
I want to know, what is it like podcasting while black, and do you think there's a difference?
Yeah. I don't know what it's like podcasting white, so.
That's very true. Very true. I never know what it's like to podcast being a humpy.
You ever think it's harder for you as a black podcaster?
No, I think I'm more critical of myself than anybody else. You know what I'm saying? Like just being able to hear your voice and understanding what's going on around you. You know what I'm saying? Like I have a son, trying to do, podcasting while doing that. You know what I'm saying? Like having group members that kind of show up and think it's sweet, and it's not always sweet. You got to be creative at all times. You got to come up with these different ideas and these different videos just to, to expand your reach. So I don't know, like I said, I don't know what it's like being white, but I know what it's like being who I am and having to do what I have to do, and not only work, but also do this shit on the side. And, come up with these ideas to further our brand.
Do any of you guys have experience of, I guess, I don't want to say discrimination in podcasting or racism in podcasting, but issues with your message not being understood? Go ahead, Nick.
It's not really. I've seen more discrimination from people who look like me.
Yeah.
In Atlanta, right? Everybody talk about Atlanta and rappers and all this and how everybody get along and all this other fuck shit that they be seeing on VH1. No, it's not like that. The podcast industry up here is really on some who's friends and who are strangers, right? Because I've done cold calls. I've reached out to people. I've sent emails, and I write emails all day long in my professional career, so I know how to write an email. But I've tried to, congregate with individuals, and really up here from a podcast standpoint, you got to really know these niggas, man. And they ain't really trying to work with you if they don't know you. So I don't know what it's like on the white side of town, but on the black side of town, I haven't had the best experience because I feel like our show can stand toe-to-toe with anybody. You know what I'm saying? Our personalities between me and Dirk can stand toe-to-toe with anybody, and I just feel like if individuals would give us a chance, they would see that. That's why I'm always willing to – I hit these niggas when I come in town. They don't never call me. I'm calling them. Hey, bro, let's get on the mic. Let's, you know what I'm saying, let's get together. Let's do what we need to do because that's how I feel. And I feel like I'm going to stay with the community that I'm most comfortable with, and one of us is going to make it. I don't know who the fuck it is, but whoever it is, if you don't bring me along with you, I'm shooting up your mama house. That's all I got to say.
You can't do that.
I have a. Can I go?
Yes.
Oh well, I have a weird answer because I actually have more Caucasian listeners. Like going by my analytics and I have more Caucasian listeners than I have like black listeners. Even though my message, I like to think, is catered to a black crowd. It's not only Atlanta. It's kind of Miami got that. It's who you know and not what you know, I guess, or what you, in a sense. But I just fuck with who fuck with me in a sense. Like if you want to download my shit, download my shit. If you don't, God bless your life.
How do you market yourself though, if that's the case? Because for you guys, a lot of your podcasts are very niche to a black audience. So how do you? I mean, since that's the case, especially niggas with opinion, the name kind of keeps you from being like seen by another audience just because they're gonna be uncomfortable saying the name. Although I'm sure they want to say that. So I guess that would be for you guys and for you too, AB and Ignant Agenda, and also I guess Tanya too.
We've never had a problem with like getting white listeners. We have a shit ton of them. The issue is I don't think there's a huge black podcast listening pool, right? Like I feel like listening to podcasts is still a white person's game. Like a lot of the people who listen to us, I feel like we may have been the first podcast that they played regularly. And then through us, they listen to other podcasts, or happens the other way around where somebody might have heard me on Ignant Agenda or one of Tanya's podcasts, and that's their first, so we become their second, just because they didn't feel like they could fuck with podcasts. But we have, like, even though we're niggas with opinions, we have white listeners that we do nothing to maintain. They just knows it, and they're going to be here no matter what.
Tanya, is the same thing for you?
Like for me, I don't think it's necessarily like discrimination with black and white per se. It's more like, for instance, with like UrbanSuiteTalk, there were guests that I wanted to have on the show, and they loved the show. They listened to it. They loved it, but they didn't want to associate their brand with the way that I spoke on the show. Right? So it was just like, just talking about the things that we talk about, how loosely I speak sometimes. They couldn't align their brand with the podcast. And that's when I was like, oh shit, like shit is changing, like times are changing. And people do care a lot about their brand as far as being on your podcast or being on your show or whatever. People still want to represent their brand too. And sometimes it doesn't align. Sometimes it doesn't.
It's being affected now with AB rolling up his weed right here. Damn show. Just right here in camera. It's cool. It's fine. I totally understand that.
Also, I think we should also take into account that, nigga, white people idolize us. You know what I'm saying?
They do.
They really do. Like from fashion to music to, you know what I'm saying, just overall culture. Every time, look at Jack Harlow. You know what I'm saying? Like the little white boy that sing the song. Well, he the prime reason why Lou Will suspended for damn. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just we have those types of individuals who they idolize us, and like Plus said earlier, podcasting is a white man's game. When I first started, the only people that had a podcast was Juan Epstein, and he's not white, but he's damn near close to them. And you know what I'm saying? It was the Juan Epstein show. It wasn't nobody else that looked like me that was doing no type of podcast, none of that shit. Now you got Joe Budden podcast. Now you got all type of other people that's doing podcasts. And now we're, 85 South Show is a prime example. Like you have these shows that are, transcending because we've infiltrated. And every time we infiltrate they quote unquote industry, we take over. So I think as long as we continue to do what we're doing, you know what I'm saying, we can get white people extinct. That's my overall goal. To get white people extinct so that they don't have to live with us. Because I don't like it.
That sounds like a good plan.
Shit, Nick. Fuck your shit.
Good plan.
At this point, for those who don't know who I am Benessy, 1/4 of the host of the Niggas with Opinions podcast. And my co-hosts are Plus Daddy, Sir Plus on the Twitter machine. I got that saying from Tanya D. And I have the Vegan Trap Lord as one of my co-hosts as well, and also Ricky the Prince.
Okay, it's working. Okay, so Marlo, go ahead and give me your input on this because, like Tanya just I guess she had mentioned with the Urban Sweet Talk, you guys had that same thing. You were nodding your head.
Like Tanya said, I think our biggest thing wasn't necessarily whether or not we had Black listeners or white listeners. It was more so people who listened to us and we were kind of like a guilty pleasure for them because of how we spoke or how we acted, especially with certain episodes that we had. One episode in particular where we used the P word way too many times in one episode, which was a great episode for what we were talking about. But, a lot of people felt like podcast at that time, it was a guilty pleasure for them. It wasn't something that they could actually align themselves with professionally or business wise or anything like that. So a lot of people would tell me, oh, I would have loved to promote my business on you guys' podcast, but you guys are a little bit too far on this side of things for me, or, we can't necessarily use your platform for what we're trying to convey with our brand. As far as Black listeners, yeah, we cater to Black listeners, but like what Nick was saying, they do want to be us. And I think podcasting, especially with so many people in it now, I think it's kind of given our white counterparts a look into our everyday lives, because really podcasting is kind of like for Tanya and myself, just it's just me and my friend, we're having our regular conversations. We just press record and you guys get a peek into how she and I interact with each other on a regular basis. It was literally us sitting next to each other and just having conversation. That's how we speak to each other in real life. And I think for the beige folks, like I like to call them, for them, listening to our podcast gave them like an insight into our culture, into our way of life and how we see things, especially the way that we view things that are happening in pop culture, whereas they can't comment on things in certain ways, but we're able to, because it's our culture, it's our people. We know we see things from a different perspective than they could see it.
What's your favorite, and each of you guys can unmute yourself to answer this or all at once, I don't care. Okay, I do care. But what's your favorite guest that you've had on the show? Or your favorite podcast moment? You can be a guest or it could be a podcast.
Oh, I recently if you guys watch Insecure, I was able to get Thug Yoda to be on the show. And
that was a great one.
I literally was just like, hey, you want to be on my podcast? He was like, sure. I was like, oh, okay. Want to do it tomorrow? He was like, yep. I was like, oh. So sometimes where we think there are limitations, sometimes it's as simple as just asking or reaching out. I know sometimes it's weird in podcasting, reaching out to other podcasters or just people in general for guests, because for the most part, they don't really know you. You don't know them. And it's like you're trying to fill each other out and see how you could collaboratively, make a show. But for me, that was like by far, like, I was like, oh, you could just ask people and they give you stuff? Who knew?
So that makes sense.
I think my favorite podcasting moment would have to be, and I think with the exception of Plus, I'm the only person on this Zoom right now who has been on every single one of these podcasts. As both as a podcaster and as a quote unquote guest, because I'm technically retired. Reason being is because each one of our podcasts had a different tone, a different voice. Even if we were talking about some of the same things sometimes, because the world blew up how many times, and we all had to discuss it. Each podcast is a whole different experience. So with Urban Suite or with Adulting I Hate It Here, it's one experience. With Ignant Agenda, when I went up to Atlanta, it's an experience. Of course, NWO is an experience. When I went to Abnormal Minds, it's a whole different experience. And it's allowed me to be able to see different viewpoints of a lot of different things, rather than just being in that one box of Urban Suite Talk or whatever the case is.
So I've always had the best time like recording with, of course, to whenever Tanya and I get together, like recording with y'all, I should say. I haven't had the opportunity to record with AB them yet, but that is on my agenda for when I go back to the crib. But I can always be myself with you guys. You know what I'm saying? I can be exactly who I am. It's judge free. We could talk about whatever we want to talk about. There's no limitations. So to me, those are my favorite moments. You know what I'm saying? Like I've had other guests. I've had pretty big guests, but in terms of having fun and enjoying doing this thing called podcasting, it's always been with you guys. So
that was really sweet. That was so sweet. Oh my God.
Break out the onions.
So nice. I was really expecting a more ignorant answer.
We got the smallest violin.
I was waiting for the ignorant ass answer, like, these niggas was over here right quick. Like, I thought I was gonna hear that, but it's fine.
My favorite moment, hands down, had to have been the really big mashup that we had with Ignant Agenda and then Urban Suite. It was a really great time. It was a mess, and we somehow still navigated it. If we're talking
that was a
about
great day.
We're all professionals. Let's start there. We're all professionals.
Straight up. If we're talking about an individual guest, Brother Hassan is absolutely like one that stands out. Every time he comes, he comes with very strong opinions. And it's like that kind of shit makes a show. You know what I mean? Good God.
Off of what Plus said, for us to have a show that's called Niggas with Opinions Podcast, Hassan is literally the perfect guest to have on our show, or a show like the one that we have. And I would say the Nick Waymo, man, like he's another one who just like what you get from him, what you see from him, and what you hear from him, that's who he is. He doesn't fabricate. He doesn't like try to portray an image. What you hear from him on the podcast is what you get. And I enjoy every time that he's on our podcast. And I could go on and on about all the other various podcasts that we've had on our show, especially including Tanya and Marla, because they give a different perspective on the various subjects that we actually talk about that are always substantive. And I appreciate that shit from all of y'all. I'm sorry, can we curse?
Yeah.
No, we've been doing that.
We rolling weed on camera. Might as well curse.
Y'all are so sweet. I didn't even know. Y'all could even be good people.
Ben, don't make me run my makeup now. It took a while to get this together.
I want to piggyback on what Plus said. Like, I interacted with a lot of y'all on Twitter, but I didn't know y'all niggas from a can of paint when I came down to Miami. We did that big mashup. So that meant a lot to me, you know what I'm saying? Just to have us all in the same room vibing and having a good time. That was a good ass day. You know what
that was a good day.
So, and then my second one's right. And we had my pops on here, you know what I'm saying? And for somebody that he's been in my life my entire life, just to have him on here and preach, shit about marriage and commitment and shit like that, that was a big thing for me. So those two moments have definitely been the biggest in my life.
Your pops dropped gems on that episode. He dropped gems on that episode.
Old as fuck, but he knows.
Right.
That's the only advantage to being old.
Since we already here, I don't think y'all brothers noticed this, but that day that we had that big mashup, that was the day that I actually upgraded my car. So that was like the perfect cap off to like a date. Like to actually end it off with like doing a mashup podcast with y'all. It was a great day. You guys provide great opinions. You guys are very transparent. And that's another thing that these podcasters don't understand. When you podcast, You're not trying to seem cool. What is going to sell your podcast is how transparent you are, how truthful you are. They want to hear, they want to hear and see life from the lenses that you see them through. They don't want to hear how the rest of the world hears it. They don't want to see the world from how the rest of the world sees it. They want to see it from how you see it. And that's why I appreciate everybody that's on this call right now, because you guys give it up how you see it, how you feel it.
The authenticity is kind of key in anything when it comes to online activity, and especially with social media, especially with podcasting. There's a reason why I asked all of you guys to be on the show at the same time, because you guys are very authentically yourselves and you give zero fucks. And it honestly, it's the only way you can be when it comes to being successful in online, period. Like, there's no other way. So yeah, I totally understand that.
Adulting I hate it here, and even with UrbanSuiteTalk, like, I think what people appreciated from UrbanSuiteTalk is, like, one, it started in like 2013.
Third one.
Right. Remainder. Okay. But no, it started in 2013, and if y'all remember, it was like a party. So at that time, it was like internet radio, where there's another thing, like, coming from internet radio to podcasting is like drastically different, because when the show would drop, it would drop at 6 p.m. So there was a sense of urgency to listen to the show, opposed to now where it's pre-recorded, it drops when it drops, and people kind of fall in whenever they listen to it. It could be a week from now. So sometimes it's even hard to gauge your numbers because people kind of listen on their own time. And with the internet radio, it was just very different. So when people would tweet through it, or they would be very interactive, it was fun. And so I would have like tons of people in the studio. We're all talking, we're all having fun, we're drinking. We got kicked out of the studio for some time. Shout out to Ro. I
remember.
Yeah. So it used to be a lot of fun just to be with you guys. Like, plus, let me tell y'all something. Plus was like my number one wingman. Like, if sometimes I would have no show, prior to Marla being a consistent co-host, I would be like, hey man, I don't have a show. And Plus would be like, oh, I'll slide through. And we would create one, or just, you know what I'm saying? So it was a very struggly at a time, but I feel like now there's been like a transition with podcasting, and it's like going to another place. And it's sometimes, I'll be honest, sometimes it's hard to keep up. It's hard to keep up with whatever the hell goes on in podcasting.
That is facts, because I can't.
Especially because like the destinations are they're so diverse. Like, I mean, I watched Joe Rogan and Joe Budden like set new destinations for what I thought podcasts could do. I didn't think dudes could close $1 million deals from doing them, but lo and behold, right? Lo and behold, like, somebody can take it that far. So I mean, I think and whenever it does feel like things move kind of crazy fast sometimes, but it's also, I mean, I guess like inspirational to see it, to see that like somebody who is where we once were is like reaching new heights.
What is the this is the last question on this particular topic, and then we're going to get into the juicy debate, because I know you guys want to say something about that. What is your, I guess, from, you guys kind of answered this, but I wanted to know what your favorite thing about podcasting would be and your least favorite thing about podcasting would be. Each of you.
My favorite thing about podcasting is having a space to say the things I want to say and be able to explain the nuance of things. Because like with social media, with Twitter specifically, you could be tweeting, it only has a certain amount of characters. You can't fully explain yourself the way that you want to and not have people take it out of context. You know how it works on the Twitter machine. So just to have a space to verbally explain yourself, even into circles, about whatever topic that is, that's like my favorite thing. My least favorite thing is days when I'm just not with the shits, but I still have to fake it. I hate being phony. So it's real struggly when I'm just not in the mood or it's like too much going on in the world. It's hard to fake it.
You posted that the other day when the virus hit, and you were just
oh yeah, for sure. I took a mental health day from podcasting because I didn't want to contribute to chaos, tell everybody how I feel. It's like I just wanted to just control, alt, delete everything.
I did the same. I felt it because I was struggling to bring the show back, and I couldn't do anything with It's Just Social Media because I was like, all of you are on social media acting a fucking fool, and I kind of don't want to talk about how much stupid like everyone's acting right now. Like I don't want to do this anymore.
You said least. Oh, my favorite part is just hanging out with my cousin. You know what I'm saying? Like just us just kicking it. Yeah, nigga. Being played the violin again.
That's
but yeah, just hanging out with my cousin, us kicking it, and then our boys being able to do the same shit that we did when we was younger. You know what I'm saying? They sometimes Chase spend the night over there, sometimes Kyler spend the night over here. You know, so just them creating an environment and a safe space for them. But then also, I think my least favorite thing is, I think the situation we came out of. You know what I'm saying? People thought it was a party. People thought it was, fun and games. It's not always about that. Sometimes you got to get to work. You know what I'm saying? And then you got to give people these responsibilities that they can't withhold or, stand up to those responsibilities. So that's why it's just me and us right now, because I know he got my back and I got his back, regardless of the shit we go through.
What was the question again?
I was waiting for it.
I knew that was coming.
I knew it was happening. Welcome back to class, Chris.
Niggas.
What is your least favorite and favorite thing about podcasting?
My least favorite thing about podcasting is probably all the weed I'm smoking. Man, it's expensive. If I'm being honest, yeah, it's a lot. My weed budget went from here to here.
Well, that's the liquor for us.
But same thing, like, you know what I'm saying? I get, because I'm not really big on, I don't drink a lot in my spare time. So it's like when we do record, we get to drinking and the vibing. So different things, because like that, I'm so health conscious that things like that start to weigh on my mind. Like, we record a few times a week. How often do you think we drinking alcohol? You know what I'm saying? So I try to be mindful and bring it up to the guys to keep them on their toes. But I would say
y'all need an NWO AA meeting.
They need rehab.
Nah, not really.
Soft stuff.
It's the cheap stuff. That's why.
That's the problem.
I know. That's what I said.
Chris, I want to apologize to you because I feel like I contributed to the continuation of y'all drinking alcohol when I brought a liter of Remy Martin to the last last episode that we recorded. So I just want to send my apologies to you because brown liquor is in my heart, and I apologize for.
I'm a detox. I'm a detox, and as soon as we get a little break, I'm detoxing.
Yeah, man.
Nick, we all contribute because even when I go over, I bring something every time I come over.
You can keep all the apologies.
Guys, don't get confused.
Okay.
I'm not.
I'm just glad y'all boys ain't drinking E&J no more.
Shit,
That's not true. That's not true. We just drank E&J the other night.
I'm glad they stopped drinking the Tiger Bomb.
Yeah,
y'all. We just drank that too.
Yeah.
What?
Ain't shit changed.
Ricky is the reason why y'all drink E&J. I feel
It's plus for real.
I love that shit.
Plus buy that shit by the 5 gallon.
I can't do any kind of intellectual conversations on your show because you have so much weed and so much alcohol.
Oh yeah, you.
Right. Just show up.
Just show up.
It's gonna be a good time.
Always.
It was the greatest time. I was so happy.
As I say, that's my least favorite thing. That's also my favorite thing because it brings all the vibes. You know what I'm saying? Like,
you are I was high 3 days after we finished recording. I counted them.
It lingers. It lingers.
That's funny as hell.
It was like, I don't know how to formulate a decent opinion. I can't think. Thanks to whatever the fuck you had me smoke. I don't know what the fuck that was. Who was it? Abdonell.
My favorite.
On purpose. I have to.
Favorite part of podcasting is the actual recording. Like when we actually press record, everyone sits down, we get our opinions, and we just vibe and we just go back and forth. The part I hate the most is the constant. I guess not a constant drag, but always trying to find something that your listeners deem appropriate or worthy of their time.
So actually, you know what? How about this? Let's just do this now. What is the double standards of podcasting between men and women?
Oh, well.
Jesus.
Well, can I?
Jesus.
Please, go first. Please.
Take the floor. You got it.
Child, y'all tell me if my wig a little askew. Okay.
Ooh, shit.
Not askew. Not a bad.
Is it off kilter?
I had to move it to the side for this one.
One of the biggest double standards, just to go back to what Tanya and I were saying before about some of the stuff that so Tanya and I, we're very opinionated women, right? We're very secure within ourselves and stuff like that. Anytime we would have, a lot of the things, sometimes we would border on vulgarity, because I don't think we got vulgar, but there were times that we borderline on vulgarity. Whereas a NWO can be as vulgar as they want, and people love it, and they accept it, and they laugh with it, and they cool with it. Tanya and I, we got so much flack. We got flack. Like the P episode, for one, like so many people are like, oh my God, you guys are such great ladies. Like, why would y'all da 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 da? It's like women are so. Podcasting is meant to express your opinions. It's meant to express your thoughts, your feelings, everything like that. But even with that being the standard, we still have to censor ourselves a little bit. We can't say certain words. We can't say certain things. We can't have certain opinions on certain things. Or if we do have an opinion, it has to be cultivated in a way that the world can accept it. So it's a double-edged sword, because they either classify you as ratchet or they classify you as righteous, which is why we put both of those words together when we had our podcast, because we can go either way depending on what time of day it was, what week it was, and what we had in our system. So women are not necessarily afforded the luxury to kind of fluctuate between whatever we want to fluctuate between.
Oh, my bad.
Okay.
Nothing. I agree. I concur. Yeah, no, it's just that it's just a general thing that men are allowed to be silly and rambunctious and fun and vulgar and be all of those things. And when you think about women, it's kind of like a box that women have to be in. Because if you veer too far to vulgarity, people start to not respect you or treat you away,
as a woman.
And right. And if you try to do the too righteous thing, it's like you being fake, you being phony, sometimes. And also the listeners too, the way that the listeners, take in what we're saying. Because a lot of times with Marla and I, and even with the Adulting podcast, we like to call a thing and call a spade, and it doesn't matter whether you're a woman or a man. Sometimes we can just see both perspectives and say the thing that a lot of women don't say out loud. So we had that benefit, but with women, you definitely are in a small box of what is appropriate for women to do and say.
I would say this and then I'll let the men talk, because I know they want to say stuff, but I would say Marla's seen me go live in a Facebook group that we're in, so has Plus, and I do it at least once a week, and I lose my shit probably once a week on the live about specific topics. This is like the only time I get to do podcasting type of content on those types of topics, because my podcast doesn't gear towards that that conversation. And I think I've been called everything under the sun, and I've seen the same topic be covered by a man on NWO or Ignant Agenda or Abnormal Minds, and these comments be like, yeah, nigga, you right, you so smart, that's right, that, these females, they don't do nothing shit, and I'm like, I so sure know I said this. And AB himself has had me on the show the most out of all of you, and I sit on the show and I swear I hear the same thing. They don't hear from me, but they want to hear from someone who sounds like what I said, but has a penis. And I just feel as though it grinds my gears, to be quite frank.
But just to piggyback off of that, Tanya, keep me honest. A lot of times, most of our negative feedback about us expressing ourselves a certain way came from women. I didn't necessarily get too much negative feedback from the men. It always came from other women. And I was like, bitch, I'm talking for you. I'm speaking for you. I'm saying the shit that you may not be comfortable to say.
You're making them feel like they can't get shows.
You raise your voice. But all the negative energy always came from women for us.
Hating ass.
Nick had his hand up for like 15
All right, Nick, go for it. Go for it.
So the biggest double standard that I've seen is exactly on point and with what you women are saying. Like, it's certain topics that men can't talk about. We can't talk about domestic violence. We can't talk about the LGBT element.
Alphabet community.
LGBT.
Right.
It's certain things that we can't, like, for example, right? I watch, I am a huge advocate for, what's the name? What's our show, Jeff, that come on We TV?
Marriage Boot Camp.
Marriage Boot Camp, right? So with
I know because I listen.
Exactly, right? So with Marriage Boot Camp,
good job, Marlon.
They had this whole segment, and they tried to slander Vado for putting his hands on Tahiri. Nobody ever talked about how Tahiri hit the man in the face with 2 apples. Nobody talked about how Devon pushed Willie in the kitchen and they got into a fight, but they got this zero tolerance policy of not putting hands on one another. But you kick Vado off the show, off of, you know what I'm saying, him being physical with a woman, but you ignore all of the other things. So it's like, it's different things that as men we can't talk about. We can't talk about domestic violence because we're coming from a non-victim, I guess, point of view. And in domestic violence, whoever the victim is, that's who everybody deems that you're supposed to point all of your attention to. And I don't think that that's fair. Likewise with, you know, the whole gay LGBT community, because I love P-Valley. But there's some bullshit on that show, okay? I just want
parental advisory is advised, my bro. When I think of the double standards that exist between men and women and podcasting, I always automatically draw back to the Horrible Decisions podcast, because they themselves have to adopt and actually take on a term or a phrase or a terminology that is somewhat kind of derogatory in the eyes of other people. And if it were a group of men who would have called themselves that, nobody would bat an eye. But they have to use that type of name and that type of calling card in order to, I guess, I don't want to say that they gain attraction from it, but it definitely speaks to the type of disparity that exists between men and women, as opposed to just the labeling that exists between men and women in society today. And they brought it to the fucking podcast world. And I would never think to come out with a podcast that's called the Fuck Boys Podcast or something like that. But they call themselves the Horrible Decisions Podcast, and I think when we talk about the labels that men and women put on each other, I think it definitely bleeds over into the podcast world, because there is a double standard that exists between men and women, and I think part of that needs to change, because our opinions are our opinions, and they should just be that.
I think them standards really only exist amongst like black podcasts, because white people podcast about all type of bullshit.
Have the privilege to do that.
Yes,
That's what I'm saying.
That's
only,
the word.
Only we holding ourselves to these standards. Like, we should be able to talk about whatever the hell we want.
So
Joe Rogan can get up there and talk about Jewish, everything from top to bottom, and every conspiracy there is about Jewish people. And niggas wouldn't bat an eye to not cancel that nigga. But anybody, Nick Cannon, that mentioned something, anything, and boom, he out of here. One of us try to mention something, we get emails from Apple or Spotify, whoever the fuck feels to say something.
It's cancel
If
culture.
If the casual podcast listener were to come across the Horrible Decisions Podcast, being spelled WHORE, Decisions Podcast, he's automatically, especially if he listens to hip hop, he's automatically gonna think that whoever the woman that's leading this podcast probably slept with a whole bunch of rappers, and that's the part that needs to change.
So here's my thing.
Wait. It needs to change that when you call yourself a whore, I need to see you differently. That needs to change.
We don't automatically need to think that she's just a fucking Jezebel, is what I'm thinking.
She just calls herself that.
I'm saying, when you lean into the sexuality,
right?
But see, if you're gonna call yourself a whore, like I'm not, you're gonna be. My boyfriend is chiming in the background. You're like, I can't. You called yourself a whore. I can't rock with that one, Ben. I hear you, but you called yourself a whore.
I'm laughing because I agree with all of you.
The thing is, listen.
and if you lean into the sexuality, then people don't take you serious. That's the thing. Or they think you a hoe, or whatever the case is. You can't just be both. Like men can be whores and be entertaining.
No, but we can be perverts though. If we lean too hard into the sex, we'll be perverts.
Y'all do though. Y'all do.
Hey,
that's why we made the honey thread.
Y'all said some horrible things.
Of course.
So here's my
thing. Those are things that we're willing to say.
We got a whole of niggas who shouldn't be saying some of the shit that they should be saying.
I agree.
But there be some females who accept that shit, who like hearing that shit though.
Yep.
That's true too.
You're making Tanya's point. You're making Tanya's point.
Men could tell women the worst of themselves, and women will be like, "I'm cool with that."
It's a man thing. He's just a man.
He's like, "Hey, I sleep around. I'm a whore," and they be like,
"Hey B, how many times on your show have you sat down and said, I ain't shit. I ain't never gonna be shit, and I sleep with X amount of women, and I do this and such, and I dog this bitch out, and this, that, the other." You laid it out from.
I'm not that transparent. There's some art involved. There's some art in there.
You too, the both of you. You own your ain't shitness to full extent.
But I don't want you guys to think that goes without criticism, because the same way women get their letters, because you guys are talking as if we say this shit and we skate, or we say this shit and no one tries to check her out. Like, nigga, the trans community's written letters, the gays have written letters, the feminists have written letters.
You know what's funny about it? Neff has checked me about that shit.
Do you know how much backlash I receive from telling people that chlamydia is not that bad?
It's a sprained ankle.
It's a sprained
ankle. That's all it is. True story. I got backlash because I agree with you when we did our mashup.
That's it.
Remember, we talked about it.
It's a sprained ankle, ain't it?
Listen, man, 21 pills, you're back to new. You're back to new.
21.
Listen, there are worse things out there in this world, and people seem to forget that there are worse things out there.
The flu is way worse than chlamydia. The flu is
listen.
You can still go to work with chlamydia. You can't go around nobody.
And look, nobody knows.
You can still go to work with chlamydia. You can't go to work with corona.
That's all I'm saying.
You can't go to work with corona, but you can go to work with chlamydia, right, Nick?
Come on.
So here's my thing.
Stop me when I'm lying.
So I like hearing y'all. I like hearing women's opinions because I'm married. You know what I'm saying? So some of the stuff that y'all say and how y'all feel, like I get it from my wife. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, Tanya said that. Oh, Marla said that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, okay, she can relate to what y'all saying. So I can put myself in a space where she's not the only one that feels that way. You know what I'm saying? So it makes.
Tanya and Marla
Huh?
Right.
We're here for the people.
Right.
We help marriages, relationships. We're here.
because with a guy, you be like, oh man, she's tripping, but she's not really tripping. That's just how she feels. And let's just take this whole WAP thing. You know what I'm saying? Because it just dropped on Friday. You know what I'm saying? Women can't talk about sex because then y'all hoes and then y'all this and that. You know what I'm saying?
Like we don't like it too.
Right.
Like
you know what I'm saying? You know, but guys been rapping about this shit since the 60s and the 70s. So at the end of the day, I find y'all opinions and y'all views very refreshing because we need that shit. Y'all humans just like us. Y'all got needs just like us, and y'all got wants just like us.
Okay, Marla said something that I thought was interesting, right? Is it safe to say that the majority of us have listening bases that are majority made up of women?
Yes.
Yes. Right? So it's like, if these double standards are being reinforced by women, can we even call them that?
No. We can still call it that, but even though it's that fact, but it's all built on, guess what? Patriarchy. And we know that.
That's what I'm about to say. Because our fathers are the ones, our fathers, our uncles, our brothers, the men in our lives are teaching us this shit to tell us that this is okay. So it's like we're going to continue exacerbating this issue until we start realizing that there's another way we can do this. And it takes a lot of deconditioning, and it takes a lot of unraveling social norms for you to stop and say, oh, okay, maybe I shouldn't do this because it's just plain out wrong. And that takes a lot because it takes the same thing for y'all. Y'all don't even know how much of your shit is double standards or not.
Right.
It's women that oppose it because it's like with podcasting, when you're a woman and you podcast, the woman either has to identify with you, like you're my cousin in my head, you know, you get that a lot, my cousin. But the way that women can support is different than the way that men support. In general, because even with music, you know what I'm saying? Even when CDs came out, there was little girls waiting outside to buy the posters, to, you know what I'm saying? To support. You're not getting men that's like, oh shit, I'm going to support 150%. That doesn't it happens. I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm saying that it's more women that are willing to support what they like. And even if you're a woman and they like it, it may not be the same support.
You guys
because we don't have penises. So
that because women are the main base of their audiences, and that they go so hard when they do support you, is why they also go so hard when they are against you in whatever opinion you have.
You're investing. You invested time. You invested emotion. Like how many times have you found? Many times I find myself like arguing with my headphones, listening to Urban Suite or NWO or Ignant Agenda. Like I'll be giving my opinion, knowing these niggas can't hear me, but the same thing goes to them. I'm invested into the show, like so it's part of my routine now. So yeah, I get it when they go ham, they don't agree, or if they do agree. I respect their right to have an opinion, I guess.
Mention of WAP, which is a good example. You know,
there's some hoes in this house. That's my shit. That's my shit. Go ahead. Sorry. Let's be professional.
Because the fake outrage, it it's absolutely aggravating. But the fake outrage that I have with it is the fact that we watch 2 Chainz do a versus with Rick Ross, and
with them stiff-ass essential workers.
And he had his essential workers there, and we were like, that's totally fine. And then 2 other female rappers come out and do what is an ex-stripper, what I would expect an ex-stripper to do, and talk about. It becomes a problem. And I feel like it transcends into the same thing like what you guys were saying with podcasting. If Marla and Tanya say literally anything that happened on the episode I was just on with NWO, or anything that AB says on any given episode of Abnormal Minds, it would be met with a bunch of vitriol from people. And how do you combat that problem? Because how do you get past that wall of judgment, I would call it?
I think we got to get out of being like, on Twitter it's always men versus female, or man versus woman. We got to get out of that. Be like, hey man, to me, when y'all right, I'll be like, oh man, the lady's right this time. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm on their side, and I think that's what it takes. Like you can't be always on this side of the fence. Yeah. Sometimes you can jump on the other side. You gotta be like, man, the girls want to talk about sex, shit, let them talk about sex. Because guess who we having sex with? With the women. Man. You know what I'm saying? So unless you're a little gay. But
or Andrew Gillum.
Like, right.
Ma'am.
So I think at the end of the day, you gotta
Glizzy, I'm sorry.
I think Tanya hates Andrew Gillum.
She hates him.
You know, okay. I don't understand him being in that predicament. In the wake of a crisis.
Well done.
He's at a motel, Holiday Inn, with a foreign male prostitute ass to the sky.
Drinking.
That nigga was
you have no place. That doesn't even make sense for you to even be there at that time in the wake of a crisis. I just
is that a wedding?
It's unforgivable.
About 10 years, he set us back. He did. You know what I'm saying?
Really fucked us up.
So I feel like this is my sole opinion about politics. I think niggas should lead with their sexual orientation.
I agree.
Because if everybody knows what you are, then they can't use it against you later on. So if you come out and you be like, hey, listen, yeah, I'm married to this black queen, but I like dick every now and then, vote for me. I think everybody would be like, you know what? That's some real ass shit. And
maybe you gotta have not
the old boys club. Come on.
I'm just telling you, like, what, okay, so if he tells you that he married and he like dick, what can you say about him after that?
He might not get the door. He might not get the door.
Nigga, what is Timmy looking like?
That don't have nothing to do with his views, though.
What are you talking about?
But you can't. I mean, if I don't allow your views to get out, your views don't matter.
Listen, man, just because the man like penis don't mean he can't make good decisions based on that. That's all.
Let me tell you something, bro.
People who like penis don't make good decisions sometimes.
It's already a bad decision.
We sure don't.
Liking dick was step number 1 for bad decisions. What else would you do next? The budget?
That's all I'm saying. People who like penis.
Let me clear this up, right?
Often make wrong decisions.
Cooking.
So what about all the niggas that like dick in private? You still vote for them.
Or little girls. Or
little girls. Or little boys.
Yeah.
Or little boys.
Or animals.
Come on, man. Come on.
That's down.
That's down.
But he got in the door, though.
Okay, so to get back
I'm not
to
sure how we got here.
To get back to Neff's original question, how do we combat? How do we go over the hump of the double standards? I think we need, Chris said it, we need to I think we need to listen to each other. We need to not just listen to react. We need to actually listen to each other. Like I said, my favorite experiences have been being able to go from podcast to podcast to podcast and get a different feel, a different vibe, a different situation in each podcast. And whereas I may not necessarily agree with something Nick says, but I can understand where he's coming from because I sit there and I listen and to his point. Because when he first said the chlamydia thing, I was like, this nigga tripping. But then when we sat down, just some context. But then when we sat down and he broke it down, I understood him. I was the only person in that house who understood him, but I understood where he was coming from. Same thing with NWO. Half the time, I don't agree with them. Case in point, Plus and I argue every single time I go over there for whatever reason. But I understand where they're coming from because they're able to expound and give their opinions because that's their perspective. And I think we don't respect each other's perspectives. Even women against women, my journey is not the same as Tanya's. And I think that was something that made our podcast so unique and so special is the fact that I'm a lot more serious, a lot more reserved, whereas Tanya is not so much, depending on certain things. So we balanced each other very well. I respected her views, whether it was opposing to mine or not. And she respected my views the same way. So, you know, whereas I may not have agreed with her cousin Kanye, just to put that into context.
That's my cousin on my neighbor's side.
Still, but I still understood where she was coming from with why she felt how she felt. We don't give each other the space to be able to express ourselves, and we don't give each other the space to or the respect to know that we're all very different. We're all individual, and all of our thoughts and all of our experiences are different. And I may choose to express myself by twerking in front of the masses, and you may choose to go to church and pray, but it doesn't mean that I won't see where you're coming from and you can't see where I'm coming from.
Twerk a rap, according to my cousin. Twerk a rap.
Jesus Plus can't sit down, boy. I swear. This is not.
He has ADD.
He really gotta sit down. Like he has not.
Bro, I just want to ask what's up with the Black Panther? What's up with the Pink Panther thing?
I don't know. The Hotep Pink Panther.
Black Panther? The Pink Panther.
Yo, when you turn off your camera.
Every time you use the screen, I see a Pink Panther.
Well, he got a...
It has a Hotep hat on.
The Hotep hat.
Oh, that's right. Yes, that's right. No, I understand. I was on Zoom being creepy before I had to use a fake picture.
Lord Jesus. Work on yourself.
I remember. No,
he do need to work on this stuff.
But I agree, Marlon. We definitely need to just leave some space. Not only that, but leave some space for people to be wrong sometimes. Like, and I think we don't do that. Especially, you know how it works on the Twitter machine and anywhere else. It's like there is no room for redemption. You know what I'm saying? This is getting niggas the fuck up out of here. So it's
trend.
I'm surprised I'm still here.
Bro,
what did you go through?
I had to delete so many tweets. I'm not the same bitch I was 5 minutes ago. So you gotta keep deleting as you go.
I ain't deleting shit. Suck my dick in Spanish.
In Spanish.
But yeah, no, I just feel like we have to leave some space for people to be wrong and come back. And even like the whole J. Cole No Name thing, it was like, girl, I get it, you know stuff, but like if you're not gonna tell me, you're not gonna put me up.
If you're not gonna,
then you can keep that on the playground. You can keep that on the playground if you're not sincerely trying to be like, oh no, it's not that, it's XYZ. Give people some space to be wrong a little bit.
Has she apologized?
Hell
no. Apologize.
I'm just asking.
It's too late.
Apologize. You talking about a woman?
Women apologizing?
Wow, don't do that.
No, y'all ain't gonna do this tonight.
Don't do that.
Do this now.
But Tanya, that's why.
Let's be real. Women don't know how to apologize.
Yes, I do.
True.
Effectively. I said effectively.
They try to suck your meat.
Okay.
That's it.
That's not an apology?
No, it's like, hello, apologize to me so we can be friends again.
For real.
Marla, it's the same mouth I had on Monday. That's not an apology. It's not the same.
But Tanya,
yes, it is.
Tanya, that's why I love your title so much, because
thank you.
Even though we and we're adulting and we're in our 30s and stuff like that, we still gonna fuck up. You know what I'm saying? Like I fuck up being a dad damn near every day.
Boy,
and I
listen.
just learned from.
We don't know what
learned
the
from my
fuck we
experience.
doing.
You know what I'm
You
saying?
know
Like,
what? We're all
I'm
playing
not
role,
as broke
though.
as I was in my 20s.
No. Yeah, we're
Yeah, but you still a little dumb about stuff that
Right.
nobody told you about. Nobody warned you
little?
about. Just
Damn.
shit don't be going well.
It don't.
Since Moesha came on Netflix, I've learned a lot of what not to do by watching Frank Mitchell. I'm just
Boy.
Yeah. Frank Mitchell was fucking up a lot.
The hairline
well.
first.
He meant well. He did. He meant well.
He meant well, but he was a horrible parent in some scenarios.
Can we agree he was the worst black dad on TV ever?
The road
He was
to
trying,
hell
bro.
came with good intentions. So whether or not he meant well means nothing. He's toxic, I guess would be the word, since that's a cool word.
Nigga, Moesha was a goddamn problem.
He was a teenager! A regular ass teenager! This nigga just let's not talk about it.
Hot dad. Fucking with Q.
Slow, we're the
Fuck you so hot
sassiest
for?
black dads on TV.
Get the fuck out of here. Moesha been on 4 seasons. It's like 7 niggas. Why so many niggas in 4 seasons?
Plus.
That's ridiculous.
Plus.
She was getting ran through plus?
Fuck, it's 4 seasons. It's only 4 years of high school.
No. He got a point.
It's only 4 years of high school. It's
We
like
are
7
not
niggas.
doing this.
He got a point,
Come
though.
on now.
No, it's a
Fucking
lot of
doing the
shit
best
that
you
we
could.
It's a lot of
And
shit
then
we
settle
didn't
for
pay
Q.
attention to because we didn't know no better. But Plus got a
Come
point.
on now.
Hey, look.
You expect me? You expect me to not get mad that you brought home a nigga like Q?
Go!
The nigga from Onyx. That nigga.
Value Tupac?
No caramel Tupac. That's funny as hell. Yo,
Shorty. I hated that.
yo, shorty.
No, keep Moesha was a thought, man.
Come on, man. It's how the truth come out.
Hey.
Next up, Kobe Bryant.
Let her truth.
You got Ohaji, you got Q, you got Usher, you got the Mexican nigga when they went to Mexico.
Didn't Kobe come on once?
Kobe Bryant. Hakeem, she kissed Hakeem. He was standing next door. You know what happened with that. She was in love with D brother, the nigga that came from Canada.
Mm-hmm.
She would have fucked him
Moesha,
if the episode would have been an hour. Oh yeah, she would have fucked him. Okay, that's
Come on.
7 niggas right there.
She ain't had a time. She ain't had a
How
time.
did we get
So
here?
you telling me she would have been
That's
a
so
teen mom?
ignorant.
Why are we here?
If it would have been on TNT,
Why are we here?
If it would have been on TNT and not
If that shit was on HBO, bro, she's
Hey.
sleeping with all them niggas. First
HBO,
season.
if it would have been on TNT.
I'm saying this.
We never want to talk about the fact.
If it would have been on USA, except UPN, should have got.
Look, she would have been sucking dick back style.
Come on.
Wow.
Frank Mitchell did all he could, man. Frank did everything he could.
The hell he
Okay.
did.
Well, you know, I enjoyed having a podcast while I had it.
Sorry, no.
I enjoyed it. It was fun while it lasted. But I knew what I was getting myself into. I totally understood. It's totally fine. Totally normal. There goes your double standards. I was trying to help you out, AB, because I know you had something to say about the double standards.
I don't remember what it was. I don't remember what it is no more.
You had a pen in your hand and everything, so I was like, "Oh, this poor fella." He was writing notes. I was like, "Oh, damn." I'm trying to help you out. Listen, okay, I'm gonna close out because if I keep on going, it's gonna be on forever, and my podcast is usually 30 minutes. But you know, I understood. I want to know what you guys' favorite social media platform is and why. Please, as for every guest, I always ask them that at the end, and then we can go on and tell me your handles. Twitter. Everybody's Twitter?
Yes, because I'm blocked.
Easy.
And I can say whatever the fuck I want to say on there.
So everyone's just Twitter. Well, Marla, are you even on Twitter?
I have a Twitter.
You
I'm never on it. I'm never on it. But out of all of them, Twitter is my favorite because of all the chaos that Twitter has.
I just like Instagram.
Same. You can't. Twitter allows you access to people you otherwise should not have access to. I can have access to Peebo Bryson if I want to.
What you do?
Yeah.
So I could have. You do.
She does.
That's Bae. You know.
Got a wife named after her and all.
His wife's name is Tanya, but that's another case. But yeah, it's more expressive, and there's a language and a certain type of humor that Twitter has that other people don't understand. Even when you're trying to explain certain jokes to them or why a certain thing is funny, like this any of the language, they don't understand it. And it's a certain type of humor that you have that's probably dark that comes from Twitter. And that's my favorite thing.
And also because Twitter is the most informative.
It is.
It's the most informative.
Low key, I mean, barely.
I ain't gonna lie. I know everybody's trying to be modest. I'm on Twitter for the hoes. Okay.
Mm-hmm. All right. This is my part of the conversation right here.
Pittsburgh.
Yeah. I can contribute this part of the conversation. I can contribute here. Unmute myself.
Say what you want to say, and it's real on demand, real time notifications of people's thoughts, opinions, how they feel, and then you can see somebody's best picture, and then you shoot your shot. It's the perfect application.
It's a dating app. It definitely is a dating app.
Look, I'm married, but I ain't blind. And he ain't wrong.
It's like a big ass group chat.
Yes, Father. I'm married, but I ain't blind.
It's a big ass group chat.
Look, and I'm blocked too. She blocked me like six months to a year ago. So I can do
Oh,
whatever
that's
the fuck I
good.
want to do on there.
Not thinking about that Twitter page, you could go ham. Oh man.
Right.
Just to explain to my listeners what this you is, there's a trend on Twitter currently where someone makes a very profound statement and its conviction is true and tried, and then someone replies to their tweet saying this you, and it's usually pulling up an old tweet from maybe 5 years ago, sometimes 5 minutes ago.
Opposite their belief now.
It was totally opposite of their belief. Sometimes they have screenshots.
Person in the same day, like nigga, you said it this morning.
They you them in the same day. Sometimes they got video. You know, it's a very exciting time on Twitter right now because people are being ushered the fuck out, and it's honestly only thing I like about cancel culture is that right there. This you is helping America. Plus, you said it was your part of the conversation because you wanted to get hoes on Twitter.
No, Twitter is my favorite because it's the funniest and has definitely the most hoes. And then I don't think any other social network has porno like in the middle of the street. Like Twitter.
Very true.
Twitter just has porno in the middle of the street.
Right.
I'm talking about you see a tweet about Jesus, then you scroll down, titties. Nothing else has that.
At 3:57 p.m. in the afternoon.
Facebook has more ignorance, so I go back there a lot. But I think Twitter still has the lead on funny.
On no social media platform can you find TD Jakes and Tiana Trump tweeting at the same time about two totally opposite, different spectrums of the earth.
Come on.
Yeah.
Okay. One is talking about giving offering. The other is talking about giving donor. Come on.
Say that.
I do
Say
manage
that.
social media for a pastor, and I had to unfollow some people because they followed porn accounts.
Wow.
And
You love Jesus and dick.
well, the problem was his timeline would be inundated with it, and when he opens his phone,
Jerusalem is set up. That's not how I go.
so I had to, because he was like, Nefertiti, what's wrong with my phone? I can't get this off. And I was like, he was ready to turn off the whole Twitter. He wanted to turn it all off. And I had to be like, yeah, Twitter shows you what people like. Twitter will show you who people follow. Twitter shows you all the business. And you can see somebody get their shit ran through all at the same time as you see, you know, we praising the Lord. It's all
Twitter shows you life.
the balance of life. All right, I'm just gonna.
Sharon's playing.
I love how Chris just nonchalantly just looking at him like, all right, well. Okay, so I will concede to the Twitter, although I have yet to get a hang of it just yet, but I still be on there. So.
What? What do you mean?
Just tweet through it.
I'm lying.
I keep saying I'm gonna come back to Twitter, but I never do.
I am
flabbergasted. You don't have a Twitter?
I have a Twitter. You follow me on Twitter. You retweeted me.
He was really upset.
It's the greatest application of all time.
I have Twitter. I use Twitter very often. I asked Twitter this morning because we got spammed by some angry people this morning, and I said, is it too early for wine? And everybody on Twitter was like, no, it's not. And I was very appreciative.
Of people that love you,
they love
hate
me.
you all at the same time.
All at the same time. All at the same time. I have never seen so many people I didn't know like me after the NWO podcast, and I didn't say shit on that damn show. So that was exciting.
Coming from a guy that has Twitter since 2009, I am on my 5th account. I'm never leaving.
I've been on there since.
They can't get rid of me.
2 times man, the snowman, baby.
Just keep coming back.
I've been on there since the same time. I would like each of you to please let me know where to find you and your podcast on all of your social media networks. It is important to me because that's literally what I do, so I want you to tell me. And based off of I don't know why the pictures kept moving around, but Nick stayed consistently in the left corner, so you start first.
Who
in the left corner? That's Marla, ain't it?
Oh, I'm sorry. Based off of what I'm looking at, that's me. Nick, go first. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, my bad. Okay. Way more fly than you on Twitter. 2 U's on Twitter. Way more fly than you. 2 U's.
Damn, this nigga drunk.
I'm drunk. Yes, I am. Agenda. THEIGNANT agenda.com. We on everything. Twitter, Instagram. We on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, iHeartMedia. Thanks to Ben, I was able to manipulate all of these cracker websites to put it out there. So thank you, Ben. You have been a huge inspiration to me to spread our shit out there for these honkies.
Come on.
I love it. AB, you're next.
Abnormal Minds Podcast. We drop new episodes every Thursday on SoundCloud, Apple, Spotify, Deezer, Anchor. What am I missing? iHeartRadio, Google Play, and check out. We got a merch at abnormalmindspodcast.com. All the social medias, Abnormal Minds Podcast. Like, listen, all that good shit.
Tanya.
Oh, yeah. So hit me up on the everything. The Adulting I Hate It Here pod on Instagram, Facebook like page. The Twitter machine is Adulting IHIH because they're haters and have character limits. Also, you can hit me up personally at I am Queen T. I am QWEENTEE. Same thing on Instagram. Don't be creepy.
I am very appreciative of this opportunity to jump on this Zoom call, and you can find us at www.nwopod.com. That's www.nwopod.com. You can find us on every streaming platform. You can find us on YouTube at the Niggas with Opinions. You can find us on Instagram, NWO Podcast, and on the Twitter machine, as the Tanya D, Queen T likes to say. You can find us at the NWO Podcast on the Twitter machine. You can find me in particular at I am Benny B on Twitter, and on Instagram I am Benny B _.
Chris, wake up.
Nigga, eyes a motherfucker.
I've been up this whole time, bro. What y'all talking about?
Nigga been meditating.
He is hiding pussy during the Mayweather fight in Vegas. Goodness
You
gracious.
feel me? I'm chilling, man.
Find you on the internet.
Vegan Trap Lord on everything, and always on the NWO Podcast. But you guys know that.
Marla, go ahead. Where can we find you?
Lady Marla 417 on Instagram and on Twitter if I ever come back. And I'm technically on podcast retirement right now. For now.
Lil Dirt. I don't know why I keep saying that name so excessively, but
it's a lovely name. But yes, Lil Dirt 88 on Twitter, Junior Dirt _88 on IG. My cousin said all the other shit. I'm not gonna repeat it. But please go to the website. We have merch, as you can see. We got the shirt on. You know, we got socks as well. And make sure y'all subscribe to the YouTube page.
You guys have socks?
We do have socks. Hey, listen. My public service announcement: stop eating ass and don't kiss these hoes in the mouth.
What?
I don't know about the ass eating part, but okay.
I agree with you, bro.
Plus,
in St. Louis, rolling on dubs. No, you can find me on goddamn what's my Twitter?
Surplus. Oh,
Surplus at NWO Podcast. The NWO Podcast on Twitter.
somebody has a rotating fan, and I'm pretty sure it's Plus.
Nigga, no fan other than me. No fan other than me.
I know one of y'all niggas need a 9-vote. That's all I'm saying.
All right, and as you guys know, thank you for watching and listening to It's Just Social Media. You guys can find me on my business page, Brooklyn_social, or my personal page, The Plush Mommy, on all platforms. And please visit my website for booking details, brooklyn-social.com. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys. Thank you, Ignant Agenda. Thank you, Adulting I Hated Here. Thank you, Lady Marla. Thank you, Niggas with Opinions. Thank you, Abnormal Minds. This has been a dream come true. It was super fun. Thank you guys so much. Everyone always remember to spread love.